So you want to customize your human hair topper or wig. This is absolutely everything you need to know. Part 1. So why would you want to customize your topper or wig? There's a couple reasons for this. Although we provide lots of customization options at Luster, you may want further customizations. Or you might like to do this in person rather than having our stylist cut or color your piece. Maybe you've been wearing your topper or wig for a few years and you want to change up the color. You can do this with a local stylist. Or maybe you want to do a fun cut, like cutting in bangs or more layers. Just like the real hair on your head, toppers and wigs will change color and fade over time. This is totally normal. Our incredible style team colors each piece by hand. Through washing, styling, having your piece in the sun, this color is going to change over time. So at this point, you might want to freshen it up with a toner or an extra color, and you can do this through a local stylist. So how do you choose a stylist that is going to be able to work on your topper or wig and do a really good job? We actually have a list of stylists on our website. These stylists are all over the world and have been recommended to us by our Luster clients. Although they're not affiliated with Luster, they have been recommended and have done a really good job on other people's toppers and wigs. So if you can, choose someone on this list as you know that they're going to be experienced. If you can't pick somebody on this list, I would recommend looking for local salons that work on hair extensions. Stylists that are experienced in hair extensions are likely going to be able to manage toppers and wigs really well. And if all else fails, know that every stylist is qualified to work on toppers and wigs. It's just whether they feel comfortable to. If you are going to a stylist who hasn't worked on a topper or wig before, in part 2, I'm going to be sharing some tips for cutting your Luster piece with a stylist. You can share this video with your stylist so that they can get the best information possible. Customizing your topper or wig with a local stylist, part 2. We are talking about cutting. You can cut your topper or wig pretty much in any way that you would cut your own hair. That means bangs, fringes, side bangs, curtain bangs, having it blunt cut or adding more layers. You can do pretty much anything. I'm going to share some tips to share with your stylist to make sure that your cut goes amazingly. Number 1 is the biggest. Never, ever use thinning scissors. Thinning scissors take out way too much hair at once, and it's just not good to use these because the hair is not going to grow back if you go too far. We also recommend an open-close method when cutting the hair. Make sure your scissors are super sharp to make sure you get that precision. Wigs are like hair extensions. It's a lot harder to remove faults once they've been made. So you want to take it nice and slow, step by step, and make sure you're really, really precise. That hair is not growing back, so you want to be super, super careful. We recommend avoiding cutting the top layer, as this can cause the piece to get a little bit frizzier. Instead, when thinning out a piece, cut in sections. And thinning out those bottom sections rather than the sections on top is really going to help the overall look. And finally, if you can, get the piece cut on your head rather than on a mannequin head. A mannequin head has very different proportions to you, and even person to person, it's very, very different where things sit. Some people have longer necks, some people have smaller heads, some people have larger heads. And having the piece cut on your head is going to make sure it's personalized specifically for you. This is especially important when we're talking about bangs because your eye level and forehead level, it's going to be different person to person, so having that cut on your head is going to make sure it is perfect. So that is everything on cutting. In part 3, we're going to talk about coloring. Customizing your topper or wig with a local stylist, part 3. We are talking about coloring. You want to be super careful when coloring a high quality piece like Luster's. Firstly, when you book in with your stylist, be very upfront and transparent with them. It can be really helpful for your stylist to know things like how long you've had the piece, how often you wear it, how often you've washed it, what products you've used on it. If you have a photo of how the color started, that can also be really helpful for them to understand the base of the piece. You want to give them the full history so that they have the best information to go off, because things can change depending on how you've used your piece. I would also recommend giving your piece a wash before taking it to your stylist, just so that it starts off nice and fresh for them. Now on to tips for your stylist. The number one rule is no lightening. Due to the way the pieces are processed, lightening the hair with bleach or anything like that can really ruin the integrity of the hair. Going darker, totally fine, but let's avoid the lighteners. Rule number 2, never use a bond builder. The hair is already in really great condition and quality. By adding a bond builder, you are over processing the hair. Although bond builders can be really great on bio hair, avoid them on all luster pieces. Rule number 3, always do a test patch. Even if you do something beautifully on your clients, wigs and toppers can react a little bit differently. I cannot stress enough how important it is to do a test patch first. With that, make sure that you're going super slow, super precisely. It can be a little bit harder to correct mistakes on a wig and topper. And also make sure you're checking how quickly the color is developing, because it can happen a little bit faster than you might think. If you're a little bit unsure of the color, go for a lighter tone rather than a darker tone, because it's easier to add more color. You can't really subtract it. Our luster stylists prefer to use a demi-permanent color. However, any color is fine as long as it doesn't have that bond builder. Our stylists personally use the Screen and Evo brands. If you don't have access to these, that's okay. Just send us a message if you're unsure what color range to use. If you are coloring one of our silk top pieces, be extra careful around the cap. If you're concerned about it, you can use some Vaseline or petroleum jelly to create a barrier on the scalp. And that is all of my tips for cutting and coloring your wig or topper with your local stylist. Feel free to reach out to us or have your stylist reach out to us. If you're a little bit unsure, a little bit confused about something, we can clear anything up. I cannot wait to see all your beautifully customized pieces. If you have any questions, leave them below.